Okay, here we have the CB550 Cafe Resto Mod custom machine, whatever you want to call it. Very lovely example here. I wish I could take credit for the bulk of the custom work that you see, but essentially we bought it in this condition from the prior owner, along with a car. We got a package deal to include the bike at the same time, and it was essentially cosmetically as you see it. He had yet to finish the carburetors or put the exhaust on. It had no exhaust at the time. We acquired this Delcovic exhaust and the pod filters. These are the unifilters, which function very, very nicely compared to the usual pleated silver pod filters that you see all over eBay. These unifilters work quite a bit better, and they look pretty sharp too. But essentially the motor had been removed to allow blasting and repainting of the engine cases, and then wheel buffing was performed on the side covers of the engine, the alternator stator cover here also. This Honda emblem piece is brand new. We acquired and put that on there. And this is a subtle detail that's really difficult to come across in video, but the carburetor bowls and lids have also been removed and buffed to a shine. Other parts that have been buffed include the front caliper. Was removed, boiled, and then buffed on a wheel. Usually these are black. This is the original caliper, but it's just been buffed into oblivion, so it's essentially a mirror finish. Not sure if that's coming across quite as well, but the lower fork tubes also, if you can see my reflection of the glove there, the fork tubes have been buffed to a shine, as well as the top triple clamp. This is the factory top triple clamp. Usually they have the U-shaped handlebar clamps beneath. Beneath that, if you grind it down, this is the finish that you get, that pattern there. So it looks really sharp. And the finish is very nice also. Quite a mirror shine on all of these buffed parts. Properly cut and edge rolled fenders, so they aren't sharp. Not going to be a pedestrian slicer there. The rear fender also typically is further down, and it's been shortened up and tucked in there very, very nicely. Along with the frame loop, this seam edge right here is incredibly well done. Like I said, I wish I could take credit for it, but I'm just pointing out that it's very difficult to get these things to look as sharp and clean as this does. Usually there's some hack job marks there or something like that. Do some looking on Google Images. You'll see what I'm talking about with cafe projects that aren't quite to this caliber. The tank also usually has a seam, a pinch weld roughly here. And this is all bondoed and layered in so that it has that nice smooth transition. Usually it sticks up above these seats. They look a little bit unsightly. This has been properly tucked in there, and it looks very, very sharp. Without pointing out some of these subtleties, they would be overlooked. The Delcovic exhaust we have installed sounds fantastic. A little bit of popping on over rev, but under load, under power, it pulls very nicely. A repainted headlight bucket there as well in the same color as the bodywork. The frame and swing arm were both separated and media blasted and then repainted with the Eastwood frame coating. And then, new bearings and such for the swing arm. Fresh canister shocks, I believe RFY brand canister shocks in the rear, which feel quite nice. And they also have a Schrader valve underneath to facilitate adjustments for pressure there. You also have the preload on the spring. The factory horn is still in place, which was also buffed to a shine. Along with the master cylinder reservoir. These are usually black and get a little bit peely. This has been buffed to a nice finish. This hand control has been replaced with a replica. Very nice and clean dash indicator lights, LEDs there, which look quite sharp if you ask me, and those function as they ought to. By neutral there. Very nice indicator lights there. The clip-on handlebars are very comfortable. They're not cramped. Some of these tend to be rather short and you lose leverage power for cornering, and it makes it a little bit unwieldy for cornering, but this is actually quite nice, very planted handling. The seat length allows you to sit wherever you're comfortable. Some of these bikes, if you have a a short seat on them with the clip-ons and factory foot pegs. You're bunched up into a ball, but because of the seat, you can actually stretch out however you're wanting to. One of our technicians is 6'3". He's very comfy on this machine. We've confirmed that the valve clearances are in spec, the ignition timing points are in spec, checked the cam chain tension. As I mentioned, a quick once over on the carburetors. Obviously the front caliper was rebuilt when it had been removed. The gauges remain original. One of the only nitpicks somebody could have is that the tachometer gauge has a little bit of corrosion. You could either just replace it because it's the tach, not the speedometer odometer, or you could disassemble that and redo the gauge if you'd like. That's relatively simple for the tachometer at least. Just over 19,000 miles on the original engine, which again has been removed and painted after having been disassembled for blasting of the different components. The wiring harness remains original and everything works just as well. LEDs for the turn signals, front and rear lighting, but for the factory headlight, which is still a sealed beam, but still bright enough for getting the job done. You could obviously continue to upgrade that if you like, but for the vintage look, it's quite sharp. New tires, front and rear, new battery of course, new wheel bearings. The wheels have been painted this lovely matte black finish, which I think is quite sharp. The hubs have also been buffed there, and it's more noticeable in the rear. You have the brake hub there is kind of got a mirror finish to it. The rear hub there for the drum brake. There's a decent shot of the frame. If you can see how shiny that is, it's very glossy finish. It has this cute little mirror, which was sourced off of, I think, like a KZ440 or something like this, a small Kawasaki, I think. We acquired this mirror from, and it suits it quite nicely. I find that the length of the bar you can still see behind you decently, and at least here only one mirror is necessary for street legality. There remains a 10mm thread here for doing whatever you'd like for mirrors, or you can do bar end mirrors, something like that, if your state requires both left and right mirrors. The factory ignition coils are in place. New head bearings were installed when this top triple clamp was removed. Brand new drive chain also. Okay, it's time to fire it up, I think. The battery had died on the camera there. Sorry for the change of venue. Let's fire it up and see how it sounds. Just a glorious machine. This one will be truly missed. Don't hesitate to ask any questions or provide a few comments. Thanks for watching.